life on our planet has been nearly annihilated 5 major times.
From impact events to mass suffocation, volcanoes to toxic seas, our ancestors survived all of them. After all, organisms evolve most rapidly when there's suddenly all these open niches from those who couldn't quite cut it through the apocalypse.
But the nature of a world in flux means we're always on the verge of another mass extinction. We could be struck by a space rock, choked out by greenhouse gases, or buried in the ash of a supervolcano. But knowing more about these cataclysms as they occurred in the past can help us deal with them should they pop up in the near future. This is a series called Earth's Extinctions, a 7-part collection of video essays that catalogues Earth's greatest disasters. It'll generally cover the 5 major extinctions, bookended by 2 lesser-known but imperative ones.
So today we travel far back, nearly as far back as one can imagine, to the Ediacaran Period. The animals that roam the seas during this time are of our planet, but completely alien to our modern world. From 635 to 541 million years ago, the land was dominated by fractal life forms, some the stoic ancestors of plant life, and others the sluggish and segmented founders of our own animal kingdom. Tribrachidium, Cyclomedusa, and Dickinsonia are a few of the oldest complex organisms. This world, with its barren land and foreign oceans, was about to be upended in the mass extinction that paved the way for all life that lives today, and the final nail in the coffin of the Ediacaran life was hammered in by the most unlikely of sources, the humble penis worm.
Most mass extinctions are initiated by abiotic factors, like volcanoes or meteors, but the life in the slow-lane members of this time period would be undone by something rather unexpected: processes by their competitors, the Cambrian life forms. You've probably heard of the Cambrian Explosion, a sudden period in geologic time where we see animals start to appear that look a lot more like what we see today.
This explosion, which took place over millions of years and is only quick in a geologic sense, was most likely caused by the Ediacaran life itself. The odd fronds and slugs may have inadvertently oxygenated the oceans with their metabolic activities, a process that could finally occur in full now that the world was no longer locked in the grip of the ice caps. You see, just a few million years prior, the planet was frozen in a state known as Snowball Earth, a period in which the ice caps effectively covered the entire world. This starved the oceans of oxygen, leaving the simple life forms that existed at the time to hug the hydrothermal vents and wait out the cold until the caps receded and they could diversify once more into the complex multicellular life we see in the Pre-Cambrian world. And so, these seemingly alien life forms enjoyed the burst of oxygen from a warming ocean not encased in ice. Some kept to their slow, low-oxygen methods of slurping slime and inching along the ocean floor, but others seized the opportunity. Animals which experienced mutations that allowed them to take advantage of this oxygen could now enjoy a more energetic lifestyle. Basically, organisms that utilize oxygen today are big and move about quickly when compared to those who utilize CO2.
And all this moving and shaking, started initially by the Ediacaran organisms themselves, would have devastating consequences.
The quilted slugs and flesh-like fronds lived in a somewhat stagnant environment. Cloudy seas were comparatively still and full of delicious microbial muck for the Ediacaran animals to feed off of. Their slow-moving lifestyles, however, did assist in the oxygenation of the seas, allowing for new players to take the ancient stage. Enter the penis worm. Basal in so many ways to our modern eyes, the penis worm was positively innovative in this placid world. It did something that the slabs of slug and shoots of frond never could do: burrow quickly. And these animals did so with alarming consequences. Burrowing penis worms churned up the bacterial sludge that was a vital food source to the Ediacaran creatures, keeping it from settling and effectively starving these slow organisms to death. We find their burrows in the fossil record suddenly and with incredible numbers, so much so that it actually separates this period of time, the Cambrian, from the periods before.
The penis worms mixed things up, and the filtering organisms didn't help. They began slurping up the organic carbon that they found in the open water, and then they began to poop. And this poop ended up sequestering in the seafloor sediment, leaving cleaner seas and no muck in sight for the previous period's alien organisms to feed upon.
Nothing prior had done this, so the Ediacaran creatures had no defense against a dwindling food supply, and burying all that carbon effectively further oxygenated the seas, so animals like the penis worm were joined by new animals that would have been very much at home in the Alien franchise. Opabinia, the frightful Anomalocaris, and the tripped-out Hallucinogenia swarmed the seas, outcompeting the Ediacaran organisms at every turn. Their dizzying arsenal of feeding parts, claws, legs, eyes, and potentially some emerging notochords in the form of Pikaia left the Ediacaranites in their muck, where they starved to death and disappeared from the rocks, lost to time. An entire menagerie of life wiped out by simple behaviors of a novel new animal, the penis worm. Thanks, Priapolida.
The creatures of the Cambrian would enjoy an incredible reign, and their descendants would come to rule the following period, the Ordovician. But doom was on the horizon. The end of the Ordovician would mark the beginning of a chain of events that would claim some 85% of life on Earth. Food for thought. If a penis worm's activities can cause an entire biosphere to shrivel and die, what can a human's activities do? Until next time, fellow primates.